As we come on the air tonight, there is a bullseye on the Texas-Mexico border. Hurricane Alex is taking aim, and here it is, getting stronger all day, likely to hit tonight as a Category 2, delivering winds of more than 90 miles per hour and massive surges of water. And hundreds of miles from the center of the storm, big oil-streaked waves are rolling onto the beach. We have a team out in the Gulf tonight, but let's begin with ABC's Ryan Owens in South Padre Island, Texas. Ryan.
Good evening to you, Diane. We're really getting hit right now. We've seen wind gusts here on the island in excess of 65 miles an hour, and as dramatic as that is, I really want to draw your attention to what's going on behind me. Incredible. Can't help but wonder, what if those waves were in fact closer to the site of that oil spill? Here on South Padre Island, they had to close the causeway basically just too high. It simply was not safe for people to be driving over that bridge. I've had some sporadic street flooding, as you might have to tell you. Overall, South Texas has fared pretty well so far. We haven't heard a lot about power outages or some of the things that you would expect one storm. And Diane, the main reason why is Alex really has his sights on Mexico, expected to make landfall about 100 miles south of the border. Diane.
Well, Ryan, you're breaking up a bit, understandably, but I'm going to plow ahead here because we want to see more of the pictures you have. You were there 2 years ago with the flooding. How bad do the floods tend to get in these hurricanes?
Well, that really was the story 2 years ago with Hurricane Dolly. Caused more than $1 billion in flooding damage. This one, fortunately, has been a little bit different, not only because it's not making a direct hit here on South Texas, but also because the rains come in bands. It rains very heavily for 15 minutes, then there's a break of 30 minutes. It really gives the ground some time to catch up in those drains as well, Diane.
Okay, Ryan Owens steeling themselves in Texas tonight against this hurricane. Alex coming ashore, but of course, across the way, we learned today that BP and other oil companies in the Gulf on the eastern side are not required to file hurricane plans when digging wells, as impossible as that seems. And tonight, Jeffrey Kaufman is in Buras, Louisiana, where the skimmers are still sidelined by the winds from the hurricane. Jeffrey.
Good evening, Diane. That's right. You know, and we've been seeing those rains that Ryan saw on and off all through the day. Behind me, a couple of shrimp boats converted into skimmers under contract to BP. More than 400 boats like this. All of them have spent the last 2 days in port. Alex's anger lashing the coastline all along us here. We won't know until the storm passes in the next day or two how much of the boom has been pulled from its anchors and how much oil has actually penetrated the marshlands and the coastline.
All right, well, we have heard of real progress, at least, on the relief wells. Jeffrey, take us through it. How close is that relief drilling now, and how soon is it likely to be completed?
Well, actually, very close. That's the headline, Diane. We learned today that there are 2 relief wells being drilled. The lead well is now just 16 feet horizontally away from the blown-out well, but they've got to go down further before they actually break through and pump that driller's mud and cement in to do what they call a bottom kill. They want to go as low as they can where pressure is low. But, you know, Diane, I have to add, and we want to be careful here, sources are telling us that they're even closer than BP, and officials are telling us there's a mid-August target to do that bottom kill, but it could come much, much sooner than that.
How much sooner? Any estimate at all?
Well, you know, it's hard to read that one, Diane. I spoke to one person today, an engineer, who said 2 weeks, but it might even be sooner than that.
Oh, my goodness. Well, again, 16 feet away, but that's a horizontal drill, a long way to go. Thank you, Jeffrey Kaufman. And one more fact from this day, day 72 of the oil crisis. You may remember just 2 weeks ago, the White House promised that by today, the last day of June, 90% of the spill would be contained. In fact, it's only about 40% contained. They say they now hope to have most of the oil contained by mid-July. And as soon as possible this evening, the next day, a wildly difficult rescue mission is about to commence in the Gulf. Little eggs that have to be carried as gently as nitroglycerin are going to be moved to safer shores. And Matt Gutman has been with the people who are preparing to hold their breath to carry an entire generation of sea turtles in the Gulf Coast to sanctuary.
They're returning home, paddling hundreds of miles across the Gulf to give birth here on the very same beaches where they were born. It's been this way for thousands of generations until now. Tonight, it's a race against time and the encroaching oil. In what may be the largest man-made migration in history, U.S. Fish and Wildlife hopes to relocate every egg in every turtle nest they find in the northern Gulf Coast, up to 70,000 eggs. Next month, they'll be trucked 500 miles to Florida's Atlantic coast.
We believe that any hatchlings that would crawl into the Gulf Coast at this point would not survive.
But usurping Mother Nature's role is also risky. Each of the 151 eggs in this nest will be meticulously placed in temperature-controlled styrofoam packaging. These eggs are so fragile that just turning them upside down could kill a hatchling. After about 55 days of incubation, most of it on these beaches, they'll claw out of their shells, still in that styrofoam, then set free. It was tried on a smaller scale in Texas 5 years ago. Still, the odds are long for these infant turtles, smaller than the palm of your hand.
Unless we find the proper habitat, the proper structure of their food web, it's going to be questionable if they can survive.
At this rescue center nearby Mississippi, we're told that for each oil turtle rescued, 4 are found dead, adding urgency to this radical experiment.
When your house is on fire, what do? You take your valuables and go.
And at stake, no less than the survival of several species. Matt Gutman, ABC News, Gulf Shores, Alabama.